There are two types of anger in life: healthy anger and unhealthy anger. Unfortunately, 97% of the anger that we know and understand is unhealthy anger. The other anger, the 3 to 5% of anger, has the power to restore your beauty and your power in your life if you know how to use it correctly. So the first thing we have to do is we have to understand the difference between what is healthy anger and what is unhealthy anger. So starting with unhealthy anger, I think the easiest way to demonstrate this is take the guy who's gotten divorced from his wife and he says, "My crazy ex-wife." Now, nobody wants to hear the end of that sentence. Nobody wants to hear him go on. He's got this anger and it's directed at her. He blames her. Most anger is this kind of blame resentment that people have, and it's situational, right? And then on the other side of the coin is her, and she's saying, "My crazy ex-husband," and both of them are angry, and that anger is not productive and not useful, and it will not take either of them to any kind of freedom or happiness. It's like a cancer that grows inside of them, and so that kind of anger has the power to hurt you, destroy you, kill you, if you just let it fester in that way. Now, what is healthy anger? Well, that's a little trickier to sort of understand. It's actually really simple, which is good. Healthy anger is the anger that these situations are triggering. So the healthy version of this anger is the anger that the child had originally, the anger that you had originally as a child. That anger is kind of a pure anger. And so just to put it this way, let's say you see a child in the park and that child is being abducted and the child gets really mad and they punch the assailant in the face and kick him in the balls and run off. You would never chastise that kid for being angry. You would celebrate that anger. That's the pure form of anger where it started. Now, unfortunately, the reason 97% of anger is unhealthy is because it's actually an echo of these original things that happened to us. So you were a child and something happened to you when you were young, when you were ages, let's say, usually it's 3 to 5, somewhere in there. Something happened and your mind said something about it. And what your mind said about this incident isn't the truth. So, for example, you wanted to be picked up by your parent and your parent turned the other way and your mind said, "They don't want me. They don't really love me." And now this "they don't really love me" becomes this curse that you carry around your whole life, right? And that hurt and that anger creates these situations on and on in your life. That child was angry at that moment, sad, angry, terrified, whatever it is. With a lot of these early feelings, there's anger too, but this is the reason why anger is the most misunderstood emotion, is because there's never a really socially acceptable way to be angry. It's very much rejected and frowned upon in our society, and so it's shut down. And of course, it's shut down in children because psychologists will tell us all the time, it's like children cannot handle that level of hurt and pain at that age. So it gets buried automatically. And this is natural. This is what the child does to protect themselves. So when when this event happens and their mind says they don't love me, they can't handle that. And so the pain of that "they don't love me" gets buried. And the anger of not being loved, there's hurt and loneliness too. But there's also this kind of rage. It's like, "Why don't you love me? What's wrong with me?" kind of thing. And so then people grow up with this intense feeling buried. And they live their whole lives, and events come along that trigger that pain. Now, these events are not causing that pain. All they are is reminding you that pain is already there, and that's the important thing. So then when you have this situation in which someone is treating you badly, you go back to, let's say, one of your blocks inside of you is "it's not fair." And you got that because you had a parent that wasn't fair. And so there's this anger of "it's not fair." So every time any kind of event that comes up that looks unjust to you or whatever, you get triggered and you come back into this 3-year-old place and you're angry. The problem is now this anger seems directed at this person, this landlord who's foreclosing on you or whatever. And the ego mechanism doesn't want to visit this old pain. It says, we can solve this pain here by dealing with the landlord, by dealing with this situation. And how often I beg my clients, don't get caught up in this situation. This situation is a replay of this past. And all the power for you is coming back to these original feelings. And in this case, what we're talking about is coming back to that original kind of anger. And if you can feel that anger, and if especially you can, that part of you that feels angry, if you can give it some love and reassurance and compassion and let it know that this anger that it's feeling is good and healthy, then it can start to free up all this energy in you that's blocked. Because I found very few people who are comfortable feeling anger. As a matter of fact, it's very difficult for them to even find their anger because they're convinced, no, I'm a good person. And so as part of that good person image, they think they don't have anger. And this is the most dangerous and deadly situation to be in, is not to be aware of the parts of you, and they're just parts, but these parts of you that are angry, you have to give them space, because otherwise all that truth and beauty and power inside of you is getting covered up by this block and your resistance to allowing these feelings in this block. So you're just stifling the whole thing, putting it all away. But you're also putting away all your power. And so when you get angry in regular everyday life, that's the unhealthy kind of anger. And so there's work to do in that. There's work to finding what it is that's really causing the anger. And most of the time what I find is that it really comes down to a sentence and a feeling. This is what makes up what we call a part, which is a wounded part of yourself that's still very much alive inside of you. And you've seen these parts come up. These are the notions when you get taken over by something, and you sort of know that this is not right, but you can't help it. And a lot of times this is with anger, it can be with fear, but you're just taken over by something else. That's a part taking you over. That's this wounded identity inside of you. And so these parts, what I've seen, they're usually built of a couple of things. They're built of a sentence, a simple phrase: nobody wants me, I'm always the last, I'm not chosen, I can't do it, right? There's all these different sort of phrases, but each one of these has an incredibly intense emotion attached to it. So let's take I can't do it. There's terror attached to that. Or I'm never going to get what I want. There's going to be a sadness and a hopelessness, but there's also going to be this anger. And so learning what these things are, now you can go back and you can start working at what I call the maximum point of leverage. That's the child was angry, and you need to get back and feel that child's anger because it was essentially a feeling interrupted. Feelings are finite. The reason we don't go back and feel these things is because it seems to us like it's going to go on forever, or it's going to drive us crazy, or it's going to kill us. These feelings are so intense. And that's why we don't go there. We don't go in that direction. And that's how we get trapped, because it seems like this is not the place to go, but it is the place to go, because these are your feelings. And when you feel them, they move through you, they dissipate, right? They don't last forever. That's the illusion. That's what the ego is saying. The ego says you have to deal with the situation and the landlord, and don't deal with those bad feelings. That's in the past. None of that matters. And it's exactly the opposite. The irony is, if you want to actually be in the present, you need to actually completely see how the past is overtaking you in the moment. That's being really present, because you're sensitive to what's really happening inside of you. So, I work with a lot of people. I have clients. I coach people to how to get down to these things. So there's a link down there. You can set up a free consultation with me if you want. But also, we have this free community called Unblock Your Brilliance. And it's a bunch of people who've gotten together, and they work with these blocks together. And we have a bunch of free different courses and classes. We have classes in building appropriate habits, but we also have stuff in awakening your intuition. And we also have a 5-day challenge on discovering what your blocks are inside of you, the things that are blocking your brilliance. So check that out in the description below. Come and join. It's awesome and it's free. So and the most important thing is check out some of the other videos here on the channel and start to listen to what's happening inside of you, because one of the precepts of our group is all of the answers are in you. They're just covered up by this garbage, this junk, this misinformation, these lies about yourself that you're no good, etc. You are good. You're amazing. And we want to get that amazingness out of you. And the way that we do that is we start to see this pain that's holding everything down, and we start to relieve that pain. And then you start to hear the truth about yourself, and then you start to express that truth in the world. So take this ride, join in the community, meet with me one-on-one. And usually it takes me about 5 to 6 minutes before I can find the deepest wound that's blocking you and stopping your progress. So great being with you here today, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Cheers.